Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to embark on a two-day visit to Russia's Kazan to attend the 16th BRICS Summit. In a major breakthrough, New Delhi and Beijing reach agreement on LAC patrolling. From Donald Trump selling French fries in a McD joint in Philadelphia to Kamala Harris celebrating birthday in a Georgia church, campaigning reaches its last leg in the United States. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Russia to attend the 16th BRICS Summit on October 22nd-23rd. The summit, themed Strengthening Multilateralism for Just Global Development and Security, will provide an important platform for leaders to discuss key global issues. The summit will also offer an opportunity to assess the progress of initiatives launched by BRICS and to identify potential areas for future collaboration.
The Prime Minister will be departing for Kazan tomorrow to attend the 16th BRICS Summit at the invitation of President Vladimir Putin. The theme of this edition of the summit is strengthening multilateralism for just global development and security.
In a major breakthrough, India-Russia cultural ties have been strengthened over the years. Students in Kazan have embraced art forms leading to various collaborations. DD India's Jessica Taneja spoke with a student of International Relations, Igor, there.
We have with us Igor. He's an international relations student at Kazan Federal University. Igor, thank you for speaking to us here on DD India. Why was Kazan chosen for the BRICS Summit? What's the historic significance of this city?
You know, Kazan is considered to be the third capital of Russia and a big economical, big cultural center. That's why Kazan was decided to be a BRICS Forum placing event.
And what kind of issues do you see dominating the BRICS Summit this year? We have an expansion of 5 new members. The oil behemoths are on board now. How do you look at this expansion?
Yeah, the expansion is called, if I'm not mistaken, BRICS Plus, which is a big bonus in case Russian Federation and its outer politics want to, to become bigger ties and stuff like that. That's why, to my mind, the BRICS Forum and Russia as a hosting nation this year, and especially our city of Kazan, is a key factor of enhancing our international ties.
And in terms of India, what is it that we're looking for in terms of what all could be offered when we look at India and the kind of collaborations in the future?
This forum, this event is a great opportunity once again to enhance the bilateral ties between our countries, which are known to be like a big thing, a big economic ties, but we can do it even better. Yes.
Thanks, Igor, for speaking to DD India and sharing your perspective with us. I appreciate it.
India's Ministry of External Affairs said that over the last several weeks, Indian and Chinese negotiators have been in close contact. The two sides have agreed on patrolling arrangements along the line of actual control, LAC, leading to disengagement in the Indo-China border areas.
Over the last several weeks, Indian and Chinese diplomatic and military negotiators have been in close contact with each other in a variety of forums. And as a result of these discussions, agreement has been arrived at on patrolling arrangements along the line of actual control in the India-China border areas, leading to disengagement and a resolution of the issues that had arisen in these areas in 2020. And we will be taking the next steps on this.
Answering on India's stance over crisis in West Asia, the Ministry of External Affairs said that India has explicitly condemned the act of terrorism and has called for humanitarian corridors to provide help to those in need.
Insofar as developments over the last 1 year are concerned, we have unreservedly and explicitly condemned acts of terrorism. At the same time, as the conflict has grown and in a sense expanded, we have called for a ceasefire, a release of hostages. There is a particularly serious humanitarian situation which has developed, and we have accordingly called for a humanitarian corridor for access to humanitarian aid and the aid to be able to get to those who are most in need.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will depart for West Asia on Monday as part of ongoing efforts to initiate ceasefire negotiations aimed at ending the Israel-Hamas conflict following the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. This will mark Blinken's 11th trip to the region since the beginning of the Israel-Hamas conflict. His visit comes as Israel continues to ramp up its military operations in Gaza and Lebanon against Hezbollah. During his discussions with regional leaders, Secretary Blinken plans to stress the urgency of ending the conflict, explore post-conflict strategies for the Palestinian territory, and seek diplomatic solutions to tensions with Hezbollah. Israel and Hezbollah exchanged fire over the Israel-Lebanon border on Monday. Explosions shook northern Israel's sky as Israeli air defense systems intercepted a barrage of Hezbollah rockets fired over the border. The Israeli army said it identified 25 launches from Lebanon into Israel. U.S. envoys Amos Hochstein met in Beirut on Monday with Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati on conditions for a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah after Israel struck branches across Lebanon of a financial institution linked to the group. On to the other conflict between Russia and Ukraine. So as the conflict continues, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin visited Ukraine on Monday in a show of solidarity with Kiev just 2 weeks ahead of a presidential election in the U.S. that is casting uncertainty over the future of Western support. Austin's visit came at a time when Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is urging Western allies to lift restrictions on the use of long-range weapons and calling for an immediate invitation to join NATO. But Ukraine fears the prospect of reduced U.S. military support should Donald Trump be elected to the White House next month. Austin's trip, his fourth and likely final visit as President Joe Biden's Pentagon chief, will include in-depth discussions about U.S. efforts to help Kiev shore up its defenses as Russian forces gain ground in eastern Ukraine. As Biden's administration winds down, Austin signaled continuity in U.S. support. As the Russia-Ukraine conflict continues, both countries carry on their fight with each other. Ukrainian officials claim that Russia attacked Ukrainian capital Kiev with several waves of drones for the second night in a row, damaging residential buildings and injuring at least one civilian on Monday. While the Ukrainian military said that air defenses downed 59 out of 116 Russian drones launched overnight, the military lost track of 45 drones that likely fell into the Ukrainian territory. On to the Asia-Pacific now. South Korea on Monday condemned North Korea's illegal involvement in Ukraine, urging an immediate halt. Few days ago, South Korea's spy agency had said that North Korea had shipped 1,500 special forces troops to Russia's Far East for training, likely to be deployed for combat in the war in Ukraine. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky also had mentioned of Pyongyang preparing to send 10,000 soldiers to Russia, calling for a strong reaction on North Korea's increasing involvement in the war in Ukraine. On the other hand, Kremlin has dismissed South Korea's assertions that North Korea may have sent military personnel to help Russia against Ukraine.
North Korea's involvement in Russia's invasion war is a violation of UN resolutions and should be condemned as an illegal act by the international community. Furthermore, it poses a serious threat to our national security and the safety of our people. We strongly condemn North Korea's action and sternly warn them to halt immediately. Our military will take necessary measures to safeguard the safety of our people.
Pakistan's government narrowly passed constitutional amendments on Monday, giving lawmakers more power to appoint top judges who have issued a series of recent decisions favouring opposition chief Imran Khan. Imran Khan had been barred from running, and his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf PTI party previously claimed that the courts were issued to sideline their hugely popular campaign. Under the judicial reforms passed during an early morning session of the parliament, Pakistan's Chief Justice will now be selected by a parliamentary committee and have a fixed term of 3 years. The amendments come just days before Supreme Court Chief Justice Qazi Faiz Isa is due to retire. As the date for the US presidential election nears, the campaigning for the elections has reached a feverish pitch. Former US President and the 2024 presidential candidate Donald Trump and Vice President and Democrat nominee Kamala Harris are going all out to woo the voters. Both candidates are now campaigning in Pennsylvania, trading bitter attacks at each other. Pennsylvania's 19 electoral votes tie it with Illinois for the 5th most among all the states. And with 10 of the past 12 presidential election winners having won Pennsylvania, it could prove to be a bellwether for the race's final outcome. Vice President Kamala Harris celebrated her 60th birthday on the campaign trail, while Donald Trump was seen cooking French fries at a McD joint in Philadelphia, where he threw a jab at Harris, saying that she never worked there, as her campaign claims. The fight is very close now. Let's see what our next report has to tell us.
Go ahead, let's go nice and loud.
Here we go, everybody. With little time remaining, to be precise, just 15 days until Election Day, the US presidential election 2024, the campaigns of candidates, particularly Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris and Republican frontrunner and former US President Donald Trump, are in full swing as they aim to fortify their positions with the electorate. Amidst the strategic aspect of campaigning, a softer outlook was also seen among both the candidates as Vice President Kamala Harris celebrated her 60th birthday and Donald Trump was seen working at McDonald's. US Vice President Kamala Harris said she was truly blessed after superstar Stevie Wonder sang his famous Happy Birthday song on the Democratic presidential candidate's 60th birthday at a campaign event. Harris urged a black congregation in Jonesboro, Georgia, to vote in the final stretch of a knife-edge election battle with Donald Trump.
We have to remind people the power they have in spite of those that would try to diminish and make people feel powerless.
On the other hand, former President and 2024 Republican US presidential candidate Donald Trump went to a McDonald's in suburban Philadelphia on Sunday and tried working French fries station and drive-through window.
Well, that's a good owner. Must be a wealthy guy, huh? Thank you very much. Well, I'm looking for a job, and I've always wanted to work at McDonald's, but I never did. I'm running against somebody that said she did, but it turned out to be a totally phony story. So if you don't mind, I want to work the French fry counter.
Trump removed his suit jacket, put on a black and yellow apron, and proceeded to cook batches of French fries. The photo op turned into a news conference with journalists outside, yelling questions at Trump through the window.
Now I have worked at McDonald's. I've now worked for 15 minutes more than Kamala. Okay, she never worked here.
Will you accept the results of the election?
Yeah, sure. If it's a fair election, always. I would always accept it if it's got to be a fair election.
The 2024 US presidential elections, which will be the 60th quadrennial elections, is scheduled for November 5th. With early voting underway in swing states in the US and campaigning in its last leg, the contest between the two leaders remains too close. Antara Sinha for DD India.
A very slim majority, 50.17%, voted yes in Sunday's referendum to insert a clause in the constitution that would define EU membership as a goal, with fewer than 1.5% of the ballot still to be counted. President Maya Sandu, who is also seeking re-election, wants Moldova, a small country nestled between EU member Romania and Ukraine, to join the bloc by 2030. Earlier on Sunday, Moldovans headed to the polls on Sunday to vote in the presidential election and a referendum on whether the country should join the European Union.
В условиях несвободной избирательной кампании, которая имела место.
In conditions of an unfree election campaign that took place, in conditions when the opposition forces were deprived of the opportunity to engage in any kind of campaigning, that is, to engage in the electoral process, when they were persecuted, thrown into prisons, interrogated, not allowed into the country, when media outlets were closed, internet resources were blocked, and so on. Even in conditions of such an unfree election campaign, we see how many people are not supporters of the ideology of the current President Sandu.
This was Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov saying that the results showed a hard-to-explain increase of votes in favor of President Maya Sandu and the European Union. Meanwhile, EU spokesperson has alleged that Moldova's referendum on joining the European Union took place amid unprecedented interference by Russia and its proxies.
We were watching very closely the votes, both votes, the referendum and the presidential elections in Moldova. Moldova is a very important partner of the European Union. We noted that this vote took place under unprecedented interference and intimidation by Russia and its proxies, aiming to destabilize the democratic processes in the Republic of Moldova.
Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Bhutan's Prime Minister Shering Tobgay says that Global South has a lot of hope in the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. India says hoax scholars to be on no-fly list after bomb threats were made to 100 flights in the past week.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the NDTV World Summit 2024, the India Century, in New Delhi today. Speaking at the summit, the Prime Minister said that India has become a ray of hope in this era of global turmoil. Stressing on the role of AI in today's world, Prime Minister Modi said that India has double AI, aspirational India, along with artificial intelligence, which can do wonders for the world.
इसी साल भारत ने इंडिया एआई मिशन शुरू किया है. हेल्थ केयर हो, एजुकेशन हो, स्टार्टअप्स हो, भारत हर सेक्टर में एआई का उपयोग बढ़ा रहा है. हम दुनिया को भी बेहतर एआई सॉल्यूशंस देने में जुटे हैं. क्वाड के स्तर पर भी भारत ने कई सारे इनिशिएटिव लिए हैं. भारत दूसरे एआई यानी एस्पिरेशनल इंडिया को लेकर भी उतना ही गंभीर है.
At the NDTV World Summit, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar added that Canada's domestic politics have given space to extremist forces and also allowed them to indulge in activities that impact bilateral ties between India and Canada.
Canada has just they asked us to subject our High Commissioner to a police inquiry, you can say, and we chose to withdraw the High Commissioner and diplomats. They seem to have a problem if Indian diplomats are even trying to make efforts to find out what is happening in Canada on matters which directly pertain to their welfare and security. But look what happens in India. Canadian diplomats have no problem going around collecting information on our military, on our police, profiling people, targeting people to be stopped in Canada. So apparently the license that they give themselves is totally different from the kind of restrictions that they impose on diplomats in Canada.
Sharing his thoughts on the bilateral relations between India and Bhutan at the NDTV World Summit in New Delhi, Bhutan's Prime Minister Tshering Tobgay said that India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi can stop the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia. He added that the Global South has a lot of hope in the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
The Global South looks to India for leadership, trusts in India's leadership. As a matter of fact, if there's anybody, any country that can sort out today's problems, it is India. Economic problems. The world looks to India as a market. Even Russia and Ukraine. If there's any person who can sort it out, I do believe it is Prime Minister Modi. And therefore, India's century. And the main ingredient of your team, I do believe, is leadership across the board, including your diaspora, but especially that of Prime Minister Modi.
Civil Aviation Minister of India, K. Ram Mohan Naidu, announced that UDAN scheme will be envisioned for another 10 years. UDAN is India's regional connectivity scheme.
8 years, the number of UDAN routes that have started are up to 601. And over 1,44 lakh passengers have travelled through UDAN routes, and more than 2,40,000 UDAN flights have taken off since its inception. So taking a cue from the success that UDAN has achieved over the past 8 years, we are envisioning the UDAN scheme for furthermore 10 years. We want to take it forward for 10 years because in the next 5 years we are planning to start 50 more airports or enhance the capacity of the existing airports. And up to 2047, which is the Viksit Bharat plan by our Honorable Prime Minister, we feel that we have the capacity to increase the airports to increase to more than 200.
The minister also mentioned that the recent hoax bomb calls on several domestic and international flights. He said that the Civil Aviation Ministry will be working on implementing legislative actions.
At multiple levels, we have been having these meetings, and everyone we have taken in suggestions, opinions of all of them. And from the ministry, we have thought of some legislative action also, if it is required, which direction should be moved in. And we have come to the conclusion that there are two areas that we can explore. One is the amendment in aircraft security rules. Once we catch hold of the perpetrator who is behind this, we want to put them in the no-fly list. We are definitely pushing forward to bring a change in the Suwaska Act also, so that it addresses for these kind of offences which happen when the flight is on ground, so that we can take strict action on them, we can make it cognizable offence.
The German aviation sector is calling for taxes on air travel to be cut. The industry wants flying to remain affordable. Joining us with more on this story is DW correspondent Chiponda Chimbelu in Berlin. Hi Chiponda. So how high are the taxes on the German aviation industry?
Thanks for having me. Well, right now, one of the main issues that the German aviation industry has is, of course, the 25% hike in taxes that was imposed earlier this year in May. Now, that tax can add up to 70 euros to ticket prices, depending on the distance that needs to be flown. And of course, that is something that makes flying more expensive. That is why we got the call that flying has to remain affordable from the German Aviation Sector Association in a newspaper over the weekend. And it is not the first time that we are hearing that. It is something that Europe's biggest budget airline, Ryanair, has been very vocal about. In fact, 2 weeks ago, the carrier said it was stopping all flights to 3 regional airports in Germany and cutting operations by more than half in Hamburg, Germany's second biggest city, and flights to the German capital, Berlin, have also been cut. Now, the air transport tax was introduced as a climate protection measure because flying is the most polluting form of travel. It accounts for around 2.5% of global greenhouse emissions.
And what about Germany's aviation sector? How is it performing?
Well, the troubles that Boeing has been facing and also the supply chain issues that its rival Airbus is experiencing could weigh on the air travel sector. In fact, the shares of the Lufthansa Group and Air France KLM are trading lower than they were at the beginning of the year. Lufthansa cut its outlook in July and announced cost-cutting measures. And the Dutch flag carrier KLM also did the same. Earlier this month, it said it would either delay or cancel investments it had been planning, and it would also look into selling non-core operations to lower costs. Geopolitical tensions and conflict are, of course, also more likely to hurt airlines. Jet fuel prices make up for around a third of airline expenses, and if oil prices continue to rise amid the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, that could hurt airlines.
Thank you, Chiponda, for all those details. Chiponda Chimbelu reporting from DW Berlin. Moving on now, Dr. Malika Nadda, President of Special Olympics Bharat, unveiled the official jersey for the Asia-Pacific Bocce and Bowling competition set for November 18th to November 23rd in New Delhi. 12 teams and over 250 athletes and staff will participate in the event. Athlete Shivani, a triple gold medalist at the Berlin Special Olympics, has been named as the brand ambassador of the event.
President of Special Olympics Bharat, Dr. Malika Nadda, unveiled the official jersey for the upcoming Special Olympics Asia-Pacific Bocce and Bowling competition in Delhi. The event will take place from November 18 to 23. 12 teams from across the Asia-Pacific region will participate with over 250 athletes and support staff expected to attend.
Special Olympics Bharat is all geared up and prepared for this event where 12 countries will be participating. We hope that such events will not only pave a way for in future for World Games, but also it will keep Bharat program in the national and international stage.
On this occasion, athlete Shivani was named the brand ambassador for the competition.
I am proud to be the athlete ambassador for Olympic Bharat for the Olympic Bharat Asia Pacific Bocce and Bowling competition 2024. My journey in sport has changed my life. It has given me the strength to overcome challenges and show the world that with hard work and belief anything is possible.
Children with intellectual disabilities also showcase their skills during the unveiling. Special Olympics Bharat continues its effort to uplift athletes with intellectual disabilities through health programs, education, and unified sports. Narayan Singh's report, DD India.
That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates on our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. So we will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja. From all of us here in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.